What advice, because we do have grads that watch this that are out in the field just like you. Like what advice would you tell maybe a grad that in their first year is kind of struggling or, trying to find their way? I mean, everybody goes kind of through the same thing, I think.
Sure.
What
Sure.
advice, what encouragement could you?
I mean, I guess I would just tell them if their heart's in it, I mean, if they are 100% invested in this thing like I am, I think you talked about this in training. I don't know if you can actually teach motivation, but if you're motivated and for whatever it is that motivates you, I would tell them just keep grinding, keep following the steps that you were taught during training and what you've learned over the last year. There's opportunity out there. You can turn the corner really quickly. It just takes one good deal to really turn the corner and start, getting some momentum going. So I would tell them if they're fully invested and they're in it for the long haul to just keep grinding, man. It's hard work and determination, right?
It is hard work and determination. There's no excuse for it. There are just too many commercial loan brokers that don't have a damn clue of what they're doing. All we're trying to do here is better the industry for everybody. At the end of the day, you can make great money in this industry, but in the end, it's all about helping people. People always say, Kris, how can I be a successful broker? It's two words, hard work and dedication. If you don't like talking to people, you probably shouldn't be in this business. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Entrepreneurs in Finance, where we interview and investigate the lives of CCTG graduates and everybody else in between, employees, staff around here. It's been a long time since we did an episode, mainly because we are super, super busy. But we have some good things coming up here, one of which you're going to see right now. I am proud to present Jerrod Stallings of Scarlet Capital Group. Hey, Jerrod.
Hey, Kris, how are you today?
I'm good. And yourself?
Doing well, doing good. Thank you.
I see you got your hat on with your company name.
Yep. It's casual Friday, so I figured I'd wear the hat and not blind your viewers with my bald head. So
no, all good, all good. Well, Jerrod, thanks for taking the time to be on this. I know, especially in the stage your business is at, I know you're probably busy, to say the least. So thanks for taking the time.
Sure, absolutely. I'm excited to do it.
So, Jerrod, tell me, I'll do a quick recap for the people that are going to be watching this. You came through in February 2022. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yes,
and,
sir.
The package you bought was platinum. Is that correct?
I came through class as a gold package, but I upgraded to the platinum as soon as I got out of class the following week.
Gotcha. Yep. Okay. Yep. All right.
So thought it would make sense to go ahead and upgrade.
Sure. Tell me, what was life like before CCTG? What were you doing and what led you down this path, and how did you ultimately find us and pull the trigger?
Sure. Yeah, it's kind of a long story, but I'll try to be quick. So before CCTG, I was a commercial banker. Did commercial lending for numerous banks across different markets here in Texas for about 20 years. And I want to say that I first came across CCTG back in 2019. So I had joined a bank here in San Antonio, January of 2019. It was a bank that was very sales driven. They were trying to grow their portfolio. They were, as a relationship manager, you were encouraged to get out and knock on doors and really do your best to build up a loan portfolio. When I joined the bank that January, I was starting at zero. My wife and I had just moved to the San Antonio market 6 months earlier. So all of my former bank clients were in different markets. So long story short is I was forced to get out, knock on doors, and really beat the streets to try to build up a portfolio of clients. And at the end of the year, I started kind of looking back on how things went that year. I had a spreadsheet of all the deals that I closed, that I looked at, and I was proud that I closed and funded just under 20 million in loans during that 12 months.
Pretty good.
But what was interesting to me was the $80 million in loans that I looked at that I wasn't able to get done for whatever reason. So I started thinking, and I was like, these deals, not every one of these deals are crappy deals. Some of these deals are getting done. They just aren't getting done at this particular bank. They're not the right fit.
Sure.
That's probably when I first started kind of looking into the whole alternative finance industry, truthfully.
Right.
Just doing some research and seeing what other, because all I'd ever known was banking, you know? So I first started kind of researching the industry, and I think that's when I initially came across you guys somehow. And I think I reached out to Mike Geisler, I believe his name is, and he sent over some initial information. I remember I was in my bank, the bank I worked for, looking over the info, and I was like, man, this seems kind of interesting. I might want to look into this a little further. And then I got to the part that had the different packages and what the costs associated with those packages were. And I said, you know what, screw this. This is a ripoff. And I threw it in the trash and moved on. But fast forward to, I guess, June. So that was December of 19.
So in December, it's fair to say when you looked at us, you threw us in a
but this will all come full circle. So I'm not, you know.
All right. No, I want to hit on that point. You threw us in the trash and said, screw this.
Yeah. So I said, screw this, and went on. So now fast forward June of 2020, you know, we're 2 months into the whole COVID thing, working from home, all that stuff. Well, my wife and I found out we were going to be having a little baby on a Tuesday. I still remember it was a Tuesday. We found out we were going to have a baby during that same week on Thursday. I got laid off from the bank I was working at. My wife had already been laid off. She was in the hotel industry. She was a sales director, and obviously there wasn't a whole lot of hotel sales going on at that time. So here I am, both of us unemployed with a baby on the way. And I'm like, what the hell am I going to do next? So started contemplating my next move. Truthfully, I was kind of getting burnt out on the whole banking thing at that point, but I needed a job. So I started looking for another banking job. There weren't a whole lot of people hiring at that time. So it took me a little while, but I was fortunate to go ahead and get a job with a community bank here in the town I'm at, Bernie, in October of that year. Started working there, and I knew in my heart, I was like, this is a short-term job. I don't plan on being here forever. I'm ready for a new challenge, ready to do something different. And one day I was looking through my personal email. Well, I guess Mike continued to send like marketing emails after I had initially reached out to him in 2019. Well, now we're in the spring of 2021, probably. I see an email from Mike about Commercial Capital Training Group, and it triggered, in my mind when I looked back at you guys, prior. So I said, maybe I need to look into this a little bit further. So I did. I started researching it pretty heavily over the course of the next few months, and started talking to my wife about it. Said, hey, maybe this is something I need to look into. And I still remember it. So it was late 2021 now. I've pretty much decided I'm going to make the leap. I'm going to go do this business and go out on my own. And I was talking to my dad about it. He owned a CPA practice for 30 plus years. He and my granddad had a small business. So he knew what it was like to run his own business. So I kind of picked his brain, see what he thought about it, explained to him what CCTG did and what I would be doing once I got out of the training. And it was probably 2 to 3 weeks after that conversation with my dad. He called me one day and he said, hey man, I wanted to tell you something. He said, mom and dad or me and your mom were at dinner last night with a couple of people, and we got seated next to this couple and got to chatting with them. Well, the guy I was talking to, he was asking me what I did. I said, I owned a CPA firm and I'm retired now. And I started asking him what he did. And he said, well, I own a commercial lending company. I've owned it for about 3 years. He said, prior to that, I was a banker and I also owned a small business at one point. But he started going into detail about what he did, and it triggered something in my dad's mind. He said, that sounds exactly what Jerrod was just telling me he wanted to try to do. So he was picking his brain, this and that. And they traded information. Well, I called the guy the next day and we talked for about an hour, and he sold me. He was like, dude, this is the best decision I've ever made. There's so much opportunity out here for people that do what we do. And so that's what sealed the deal. Told my wife I'm joining.
1 second. The guy that your dad was sitting next to at dinner went to training?
So he had went through a different training though, truthfully. He didn't go through your training.
Okay.
So he and my dad were talking, and my dad had mentioned that I was looking into the CCTG program, and the guy, his name was Don. He said, that's a great program. I've heard great things about it. He said, unfortunately, I went through a different training, but it still worked out for me. His business was doing well.
Right.
So anyhow, that being able to kind of talk to someone that had already been in it for a few years and hearing the successes that he had really helped me.
That's crazy.
Make the decision. So
crazy. That's a crazy scenario to bring those two together.
Well, I believe things happen for a reason, and
Sure.
the fact that my dad got seated to that guy and they had a conversation is what ultimately led me to pulling the trigger and signing up, and then I came through in February of 22.
Wow.
So,
What a great story of
mhm.
faith. Um, so you came through as a gold. Were you skeptical
I
coming
mean,
in?
skeptical might not be the right word. I was anxious, truthfully. I was obviously anxious, nervous, excited, all those emotions that I'm sure a lot of the people that come through have.
Right.
Um, I would have loved to have done what was it, the top tier package. I don't remember what the name of it is. I would have loved to have done that, but it's a huge investment.
Sure.
Obviously, even at the gold level, huge investment, especially for someone who's the sole breadwinner for his family. So I came through at the gold level, but at some point during the week, I just said, you know what, in order for me to really give myself a chance of succeeding at this, I think I'm going to need to invest in, the additional lead generation that comes from the platinum package and the social media and just everything that came along with that package.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
made that decision when I got back home.
Interesting. So, tell me your thoughts about the training itself. When you were here.
The training was great. It was a long week, obviously, a lot of information. I remember I came in that Sunday before, I think class started on a Monday. I'd never had any reason to go to Albany, New York, right? So I'd been to New York City a few times, but Albany had never been on my bucket list of places
Sure.
to visit. But I came in early that Sunday afternoon. I wanted to kind of check out the city and all that. That lasted about 10 minutes because it was so cold. I just stayed indoors. But
Well, and there's not biggest complaint I always say is there's not much to do here in downtown Albany.
yeah, and
Really?
everything I think was closed on Sunday. Like I was trying to find a bar to maybe grab a beer and I couldn't find anything. So anyway, I took it back to the hotel and kind of got ready for the week. But
Yeah.
I remember that Monday morning walking down to your building, it's a short walk from the hotel.
Right.
And having those emotions I just mentioned, I'm anxious, nervous, all that stuff. And my biggest fear when I got there, I knew you guys were legit, like I'd done my research, but my biggest fear was to walk in that conference room and I'm the only one there. Like I'm the only one that signed up and paid the money and that kind of thing. So and my second fear was to if there are other people in the class, am I going to be able to relate to any of them? I mean, I'm sure there's people from all over the place. So
Hmm.
when I get there, I walk in the door to the conference room and the first person I meet, introduce myself. Hey, I'm Jerrod. His name was Brian. Where are you from, Brian? I'm from San Antonio.
Ah,
Said, no shit, that's where I'm from. So that
wow.
immediately put my thoughts at ease, I guess, on that part of it.
Yeah.
And then we had a full class. It was a great class, people from all over the country. And as the week went on, we all really bonded and got to know each other really well. But the class was great, a lot of information. It was hard to kind of process all of it, during that week. It took me a couple of weeks when I got back home to really kind of go through everything that we had learned. But I loved my favorite part was the lender presentations and the former graduates who did their presentation and kind of gave their story. I really enjoyed hearing those.
Yeah, some of our mentors. So,
Yeah.
all right. So you're done with class. Tell me about your first couple of months out when you get back home. I always say, usually the first 6 months is the toughest part, right? Because you're scrambling around, you're learning, you're learning by by some failure a little bit. You're just kind of it's new and it's everything's happening at once. Tell me about that first 6 months of your business when you left.
Yeah, it was everything you just said. I mean, it was a grind. I'd been a salaried employee for 20 years. Now I'm, commission only and not guaranteed anything. So the first few months were a grind. It was a lot of, just getting out and knocking on doors and letting people know what I was doing, trying to get some business from some former bank clients and things like that. But it took me a while to really kind of get things going, I guess. I think we closed our first. So I real quick, I finished I did training in February. I was still employed at the time. So when I got back home, I still had a job, ultimately resigned in mid-March, took a couple weeks off to relax and kind of decompress, hang out with the family. And then April, pretty much spent the majority of April just letting people know what I was doing and getting my name out there. And then we officially launched, I guess, in May. with you guys. So, April and May it was a lot of trying to get things organized and just get out and tell people what I was doing. And then we closed our first deal in June. I guess it was a small deal.
Yep.
Small investment real estate deal. And from then on, we've had some steady closings. And then, I guess towards the end of the year and first of this year was when we finally had a few large closings that really helped jumpstart our business going into this year. And throughout this past year has been going well.
Yeah, I see that. I'm looking at some notes here. Your largest deal to date is what, 5.4 million?
Yep, it was a retail center acquisition for a client that was referred to us by a real estate broker friend of mine. So that was a great deal because not only did we get that one for that client, we also closed a second deal with that same client, and they both closed in the same month. So it was a good January was a great month. We got that one closed, and then they also were that particular client was purchasing a facility in Grapevine, Texas, that we were able to get done as well.
Very good.
Very happy to have that happen.
You gradually started. I think the key point there that you said, which is important for people that are viewing this, is you went out and you kind of hit the streets. You got out there, right? You networked. Networked, and slowly things started to come to fruition. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it is. It takes a little of explaining to some people what it is exactly that we do, but the more people you talk to, the more they're going to spread your name around to other people, and eventually you're going to start getting some referrals coming through your door. So
sure,
it doesn't happen overnight, obviously. I mean, we're still grinding it out today, but we like where we're headed, and I think that we've kind of laid the foundation for good referral sources going forward.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Did you, if you could think of some of the deals that you've done, what's the most memorable deal?
So most memorable, I guess the last sizable loan that we closed was back in April. We initially started working on that deal in October, I believe. It was a construction loan for a large industrial facility here in Boerne, Texas. Mm-hmm. It was referred to me by a former bank coworker of mine. And I remember I was in Vegas for the NACLB conference. I think that was October of last year, maybe.
Yep.
So I just met with this client the week before, and I had I brought a lender to the table, and I had my first conference call with the client and the lender while I was in Vegas at that conference. But long story short is that bank or that lender initially that we were talking to, they chose to not pursue it. So we had to bring in some other potential lenders, and long story short is there was a lot of back and forth, a lot of negotiation, but at the end of the day, we were able to get that thing done in April, and it funded in April, and or it closed in April. And it was my most proud win because of the amount of time and effort that we spent getting it to the finish line. So
awesome.
The client was very appreciative of the work we did. So it was a good one for us.
And so now, looking forward, let's say in the next 6 months, 6 to 12 months, what's your game plan? I mean, you kind of have a vision?
Just continue to grow and try to capitalize on whatever opportunities are out there. I mean, truthfully, the last month or so has been a little slower than I would like things to be. I think I've spent a little bit too much time in the office doing, handling the processing side versus being out, doing the networking events and things like that. But my goal is just to continue to get out there and spread the word on what we do. And I think there's a real opportunity for people that do what we do right this minute with what's going on in the current lending environment with interest rates and such. You've got a lot of real estate deals that are coming due that might have been on an adjustable mortgage that now it's going to be maturing, and there's going to be a significant rate hike. A lot of people are going to be looking to refinance. I think we can help with some of that. And then, just try to get out in front of those investors that we're trying to network with on the residential side to get more of those fix and flip and short-term rental deals through our door. So just continue to grow and continue to work hard and make this thing work.
Is it safe to say that, no, that's good news. Is it safe to say that you kind of, as we teach people to concentrate on things when they leave here, because there's so many products, right? It sounds like you gravitated more towards real estate financing. Is that correct?
I guess, yeah, probably so. When I when I first came through training, I equipment financing was going to be my focus.
Okay.
I had done a lot of equipment lending, throughout my career, and I just felt like that opportunity. Number one, they typically close quicker than a real estate loan, and I needed I needed cash. I needed to bring some income in, and so that was my initial plan. But it to this point, it's been more real estate. We've closed some equipment deals, but it seems like real estate has been our focus, and will continue to be our focus. But we still try to capitalize on any of those other deals that come across our table as well.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. And what, I guess I always like to ask this question, what advice, because we do have grads that watch this that are out in the field just like you, like what advice would you tell maybe a grad that in their first year is kind of struggling or, trying to find their way? I mean, everybody goes kind of through the same thing, I think.
Sure.
What,
Sure.
what encouragement could you?
I mean, I guess I would just tell them if their heart's in it, I mean, if they are 100% invested in this thing like I am, I think you talked about this in training. I don't know if you can actually teach motivation, but if you're motivated and for whatever it is that motivates you, I would tell them just keep grinding, keep following the steps that you were taught during training, and what you've learned over the last year. There's opportunity out there. You can turn the corner really quickly. It just takes one good deal to really turn the corner and start, getting some momentum going. So I would tell them if they're fully invested and they're in it for the long haul, to just keep grinding, man. It's hard work and determination, right?
It is hard work and determination. There's no excuse for it. I always, what would you think is the worst part of the business that you don't like?
So I guess we've spent a lot of time on especially in those early months, chasing deals that were never going to happen. But we also spent more time than we should have on those people that are just rate shopping, those clients that are just out there rate shopping, or, that are going to beat you up on rate and fees and that type of stuff. I get frustrated with those types of borrowers because, number one, why are you calling me? If you can get a better rate at your bank, then why are we talking? That irritates me a little bit. But I've kind of learned on the front end which client is serious, which client is somebody that we actually might be able to get closed versus somebody that might just be kicking the tires or rate shopping, like I said. So that's a little irritating, and it's just a learning process trying to figure out which deals are actually legit and which ones aren't.
I guess I have to say then I don't know. We all deal with that, right? It's
the other part that's frustrating, just real quick, is just the amount of time we have to spend on some of the processing part of the business. My plan is to get my wife involved when our daughter starts daycare later this year. We're going to get her involved, and hopefully she can take some of that off my hands. But those two pieces of the business aren't my favorite, but it is what it is.
What do you like the most about the business?
I love trying to help people get funding. I love getting out and talking to potential borrowers and showing them that I can provide multiple options that might not be available at their particular bank. And I love that there's really no cap on what income I can make. There's always been a cap, during my banking days. I knew I was going to get a set paycheck every 2 weeks, which is, it's comforting to have that, but I love getting up every day and being like, man, it's another challenge. There's no telling what opportunity I'll come across today that might be able to close and really help me grow the business.
You know what? And let me ask you about that. Coming from you were always a salaried employee, and now you transitioned into a place where it's like it's you eat what you kill. You don't have that safety net. What do you think? In a lot of people that I think a majority of people come from that realm that could take our training. What do you think really motivated you? I mean, to know that, like, gee, I'm not going to get a check next week. I mean, it's really all up to me. Was it, you think, because you had a child on the way? Possibly.
I mean, I don't,
I'm just digging. I'm digging down deep to see
yeah,
like
yeah, no,
what
it's a good
motivated
question.
you because because you came from that world.
Yeah, and like I said, it was definitely a big decision and a leap of faith, I guess. But I felt like I felt like I had the motivation and I had the determination to make it work. And yeah, it was comforting having a set salary, set paycheck there at the bank and what it came along with that. But life's too short, man. Like none of us are guaranteed another day. And I just felt like if I didn't go, I had always wanted to start my own business, and I felt like now was the time to do it.
Yeah,
It kind of just threw caution to the wind. I felt like I'll go out there and work my ass off. And if for any reason this doesn't work, I fail. I felt like I could always go back, and get back on with another bank if I really wanted to. But
I see.
that my plan is to not do that. But there's been some sleepless nights, honestly, at least in those early months, when how am I going to pay, or how am I going to make any income this week or this month? But
Sure.
it's starting to turn the corner, and I see the opportunity ahead of us.
See the light. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, I've been watching this the whole time, but tell me on your hat, right? I'm looking at your name, Scarlet. Tell me about Scarlet. How'd you come up with that name?
So that is a name I came up with after my wife Annie and my daughter Scarlet. So
Ah,
Annie, I'll earn some brownie points for this, but she is man, she's been the biggest blessing I've ever been given, and without her, I wouldn't have had the courage to go out and do this, and I would probably still be working at the bank or wherever. I think she's been a great motivator for me. She's been so encouraging and very supportive, and having that little girl has also motivated me even more to go out and build something that we can be proud of and that can provide for them. So that's where I came up with the name, because those two people are really what motivates me more than anything to get up every day and work my
that's
ass off to
great.
make this
I,
work.
I
Yeah.
actually love that.
Yeah.
And you bring up a good point. I think it's so important to have a partner that's encouraging and, I mean, that adds so much of a difference because if you have, I've spoken to grads where they tell me that their partner was against it,
Yeah.
100% against it. And then even after they went through and said, look, it's a real opportunity. Here's what's going on. They're not supportive. It was always like negative. And I've
Yeah.
talked to grads and they said that was very so much so that some grads have gotten divorces
I,
because the partner wasn't supportive. And two, even the ones that haven't, it's just it's a lot to, you got enough to deal with when you leave here, right? And then
sure.
not have a partner that's on your side to support it and kind of be a naysayer is tough.
Yeah. No, I agree. I couldn't imagine, you know, coming home after if I'm already maybe the week hasn't gone the way I wanted and I'm kind of feeling a little down and my partner wasn't supporting me, that would be tough, man. I don't think I
Oh,
could do that.
yeah, yeah,
I'd be divorced too.
yeah. um. All right. Well, listen. Here's some things that normally you've probably watched these podcasts before, where I'll ask
Sure.
questions that are just non-related to finance. But I always like to say, if you weren't, if you could wake up, imagine yourself in a day where you could wake up and you could just do as a profession, do anything you want without the
Yeah.
training. Just wake up and boom, you're that. What would it be?
Yeah. So that is something we were actually talking the other day with a buddy of mine, and this might be somewhat of a lame answer, but dude, I love playing golf, right? So I'm a hack golfer for sure. But I love the game. I wish I would have started playing when I was younger, but anyhow, I love going out and playing with buddies and enjoying time on the golf course. So
Mhm.
I don't know. I think I would probably choose being a golfer, because those dudes, they haven't made, especially now with the Saudis getting involved and the money they're about to dump into that thing. I mean, playing golf for 4 days a week and cashing checks, that sounds like a pretty good lifestyle. So I would probably choose that.
Cool.
Yeah.
All
So
right. That's a good answer,
it'll
man.
never happen for sure, but I would choose that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's one thing that people normally wouldn't realize about you, by like meeting you, like, and I'm talking about like something you're into, hobbies, or just like a quirky thing that someone just wouldn't expect.
Yeah. So there's a couple of them. I guess I'll just I had some very interesting part-time jobs when I was younger, in college and high school and college and whatnot. But one that sticks out to me, I guess, is a job that I had when I was in college. It was a buddy of mine, best friend. He and I were home from college for summer break, and we were looking for some jobs to pay rent and this and that. And we saw an ad in the paper for this sales position. Didn't really explain what it was. So we go down there and we meet, and basically it was a job where you're driving around in a refrigerated truck selling cases of steak, like meat, door to door. And so we were like, yeah, let's check this out. So the first week I remember they split us up and they had us ride around with their top salesmen, kind of watching how they work and how the business works. And it was probably one of the most entertaining weeks of my life, just some of the stories and what I learned from these people. But went ahead and did that for a full week. And then they handed over the keys to my buddy and I on Monday and said, all right, go out, sell meat. And so we started doing that early that morning, knocking on doors, and we were having no luck. No one wanted to give us the time of day. I mean, we're trying to literally sell cases of steak to door. Like, would you let someone in your house to try to sell you steak? I don't think I would, but we were out there hustling and doing it.
Well, and it's frozen, right?
Yeah, it's frozen steak. But
no, if I want a steak, I want to
go down to the grocery store.
Yeah, exactly. Wow.
So we did it. I remember we made it through lunch. We went back out for a little longer and continued trying to make some sales, and it just wasn't happening. So I don't know, 3 or 4 o'clock that afternoon, we went back to the house and both had a couple of beers, kind of relaxed, walked out of his apartment, walked over to one of the first houses in his neighborhood that we could find, knocked on the door. The lady was nice enough to let us in and do our little presentation. We closed the deal, sold her a case of meat, and then we both quit the next day and said, you know what, I don't think selling meat door to door is for me. And we went and found other jobs.
Oh, that's fun. You did close one.
That was my first introduction to commission-based sales, I guess.
Yeah, well, it doesn't get any worse than that, I don't think, right? Selling frozen meat.
Yeah,
that's
as long as I don't ever have to go back to selling meat door to door, I guess I'm doing okay.
That's funny. All right, one last question. If you could have an hour of somebody's time, whether presently living or deceased, at any point in history in the world, and sit down and just have an hour of their time and talk and do whatever, who would it be in your mind?
So I guess a little bit of a personal answer, but it would probably be well, my wife. So like I said, she's been a great inspiration, and unfortunately she lost both her mother and her brother years ago, way before I ever met her. And obviously that's something that impacts her life on a daily basis. She's always going to miss her mom and her brother. And she loves to tell me stories about both of them. And now that we have our daughter, I can see traces of my family, in my daughter, and I can see traces of her dad and sister and our daughter. But if I could pick anyone to sit down for an hour or so with, it would probably be her mom and brother, just to learn more about them and learn more about where my wife came from and get to know them a little bit and let them get to know their granddaughter. So probably a little bit more personal answer than you're looking for, but it's true. I mean,
it's wonderful.
It's I couldn't imagine losing a loved one like that. Fortunately, that's never happened to me, but anyhow, that would be my answer.
Okay. All right. Well, as we're winding down, we now come to some graduates' favorite part. I don't know, but feel free. Is there anything you want to ask me? It doesn't have to be about CCTG. It doesn't have to be about, we kind of switched the gears here and put me in.
Yeah. So I guess, I know a little bit about your background from what you told us during training, how you got into the business, and, you started at a bank doing equipment financing and all that stuff, and then got laid off and you started your own gig. But I don't recall you really telling us, or I'd be interested to know, like, kind of how did that go for you in the beginning? I mean, were you a one-man show in the early days? And then, like, when did it really start to kind of take off for you to where you needed to grow and bring in more people before the lending business started, more when you were on the broker side? I'm just kind of curious how your journey went.
Yeah. All of the above. I mean, everything that you said, you kind of hit on good points. I mean, I was definitely a one-man show. I didn't close my first deal for probably 5 months. And I already had experience, right? In terms
Mhm.
of equipment financing, that's what I first started out doing. And then I expanded the model, which, you've heard my pitch in class. But yeah, it was, I was poor. I was living in a kind of a dingy apartment, with a notepad and a phone, and that's it.
Yeah.
And smile and dial, networking, right? Kind of what you said you were doing. And it was tough. I always like to tell a story where there was you hear people say in college, what do they live off of, right? Ramen soup, some of those types of things. Well,
Bologna sandwiches.
bologna sandwiches. Mine was pizza because there was a pizza place down the street from where I lived in this apartment, and it was $1 for a slice and a Coke. And I always say if you catch it right at like at that in those days it was like 4 a.m. You go down at like 3:45, and I would catch them before they threw out all the pies of the day that didn't sell, right? That were just left over on the pans. And so they would just give me it. Right. They would just
Mhm.
give me those slices. And I probably 90% of my diet back in those days in the first 6, 7 months of my business were pizza, cold pizza.
Interesting.
So that's yeah, yeah. So I say cold pizza and hard work, determination got me
Yeah.
through at least my first 6 to 8 months in this business. But yeah, it was a struggle, and even somebody that had experience, um, I had some existing customers that I had at the bank. It was, you know, it was. I mean, I wouldn't trade those days for anything because it kind of builds who you are, and
Yep.
when you look back, it one hell of a journey it's been for anybody that's been in this business. So that kind of came up that way. So hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, no, it did. I appreciate that. Um, and I guess, another question real quick, going forward, I've been in this a little over a year. I've had a few successes, but it's been a lot of hard work and a grind, and not every day is as good as the other days. I mean, what advice, I guess, would you give someone like me that is 1 year into this? I mean, this is literally my family's sole source of income. So there's a lot of pressure, I guess, to try to make this work.
Yep.
You know, I guess more direct question would be like, what current opportunities do you see in the market, throughout the rest of this year and going into next year for people that do what we do? I mean, does anything kind of stand out as far as what you would try to capitalize on if you were doing what I'm doing?
Yeah, I think obviously banks have pulled back a little bit
Yeah.
with leverage and some other things. Rates have gone up. So I think, in times like these, I think the private lending world in some aspect comes to the rescue. Um, Whether it be, a little better, more leverage, rates are still high, but I think the private lending world figures out how to capitalize when banks kind of really pull back, and we see that happening now. I think in all sectors, in the business lending sector and real estate lending sector, I also think there's a lot of opportunity with acquisitions for certain property classes, where bridge lending will make sense,
Hmm.
to get a property, especially at a discounted payoff. I think some of these banks are going to have to take a haircut on some of these properties that are coming up for refinance. Right, they're going to have to take a haircut to kind of get out of the deal. We're going to see an enormous amount of that, particularly in office. I mean, that's a big problem.
Right.
Office buildings, but again, I think there's always opportunity for the investor,
Yeah.
to kind of gobble these up, and I think there'll be a lot of bridge financing, um, for acquisitions that are going to be happening. So I always say it's the right opportunity. It's really a ripe time to be in this business, and I'm not just saying that to try to sell what we do and give
Yeah.
training, but it's a ripe opportunity. We saw the same thing in '08 when we climbed out of '08 and '09, 2010. It was a right of opportunity to start, setting the clock back to zero and capitalizing on some of the turmoil that was happening.
Yeah. Well, I agree with everything you said. And just one more quick question on that. What would you recommend? Would you, for those bank deals that are needing to be pushed out, would you go after the banks themselves, trying to call on the bankers themselves, or the actual borrowers, property owners, like, or a combination of both, I guess?
Um, Really, I would say, have a straight, concise message for both, right?
Mhm.
I wouldn't just do one or the other. I mean, especially if you know some of the bankers and you know, you could, they may already have a deal on the table, right? Where they've already offered, a discount on the note. Um, and they don't want to refinance it. They want to bring somebody else in to do it. So that's your angle there. And obviously with investors, yeah, sure. It's going after them saying, look, I have capital behind me to kind of do these deals. Should you pick up a good deal and, whatever you have in your portfolio and you need to refinance, give me a shot at it. But I think it's a clear, concise message that you're there to help and assist in the situation, because it's going to be hard to get another bank to do it. I think that's where the private lending industry steps up. Uh,
Yep.
To kind of, especially if it's like a conversion type scenario too. A lot of these assets, investors are looking to buy from the banks and convert them like office, which is not an easy thing to do, by the way. It
Mhm.
requires capital, but I think you'll be seeing a lot of office to multifamily conversions. You know, or
Yep. I agree.
yeah. So I think it's a big opportunity there.
Great. Well, I
So
appreciate that. Yeah, that's good info to take
absolutely,
in. Yep.
I see your plaque up there,
Yeah,
right behind you.
there it is.
That's cool.
Can you see my hole in one though I got?
I see. Yeah, I see that too. I was going to ask about that. Your
So
whole.
that, like I said, I truly am a hack golfer, but I got a legit hole in one about a year ago, and I'm pretty proud of that because that'll never happen again. I don't know if you play golf. Do you play golf?
You know what? I know how to play golf. If
Yeah.
you say you're a hack, then I'm really a hack. I do play golf. I shouldn't say that. I don't play golf, but I can play golf
Yeah.
when I'm forced to play golf.
There you go.
Nothing against the sport. I'm not good at it. I don't play
Yeah.
it, and I don't like doing things that I'm not good at.
Yeah.
Um, but
We all have our own hobbies, I guess. You
yeah, no,
like cars. I think cars
of
is
course.
your hobby from what I
Sure.
recall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like cars. I like roads. I like driving. But no, golf is good. And the only thing about golf I can tell you is, like, I got a good drive, but after that, my short game is terrible.
Yeah. I can
Terrible.
relate.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got the hole in one and I got the CCTG plaque up there. So,
Awesome. I love
and
it.
and a picture that my daughter painted for me. So those are three that I'm proud of.
That's good. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
for
really
sure.
good. And just a reminder of viewers, you work from home, correct?
I work from where?
You work from home?
No, this is my office. I have an office here.
Oh, you do have an
Yeah,
office. All
yeah.
right, cool.
I lease a small office here in Bernie. So that's where I'm at right now.
Awesome.
I couldn't work from home. There's just way too many distractions. I have to be out of the house in order to get things done.
I agree with you. I
Yeah.
100% agree with you there. Well,
Yeah.
all right. Well, listen, I think we've said a lot. We covered a lot. Jerrod, I want to thank you again for taking the time to do this. It was a pleasure kind of getting to know your journey a little more. And believe
Sure.
it or not, it's insightful because a lot of people watch this, not just people looking to get into the business, but people that are already in the business. So I'm sure you've said some good advice. So I appreciate that.
No problem. I appreciate the opportunity and thankful we were able to do this.
Absolutely. Well, all right, everybody. That wraps it up for this episode of Entrepreneurs in Finance. Don't forget to follow us on our YouTube channel. You'll see a thing pop up there, and just click on that. And we got some great episodes coming up, and we'll catch you in the next one. All right. Take care, everybody. There are just too many commercial loan brokers that don't have a damn clue of what they're doing. All we're trying to do here is better the industry for everybody. At the end of the day, you can make great money in this industry, but in the end, it's all about helping people. People always say, Kris, how can I be a successful broker? It's two words: hard work and dedication. If you don't like talking to people, you probably shouldn't be in this business.